Welcome back, everyone, to the Late Night Review. And tonight I want to talk about 5 horror movie hidden gems that maybe a lot of people haven't seen. I'm sure that horror fans, devout horror fans, have seen these movies, but there's probably a lot of people, particularly of younger generations, that haven't seen these movies. These are movies that I got a lot of nostalgia for, movies that I like. There's one on the list that was made in 1996 that I don't have a ton of nostalgia for obvious reasons. I was born in 77. I have nostalgia for movies that came out in the 80s primarily, and 70s, 80s. It depends on depends on what I saw when I was a kid. Reruns, I can have nostalgia for movies that go way, way back just because I saw them on video cassette when I was a kid, or reruns on TV. But these movies here, mostly I have nostalgia for most of these movies, and I think they're a lot of fun. They're movies that I don't hear mentioned much, and they're hidden gems mostly. I think I put them in that category because a lot of people probably haven't seen them, especially non-horror fans. And even if there are horror fans, maybe of newer generations, they haven't seen these movies perhaps. But they're some of my favorites, and I wanted to mention them because they're 5 horror movies that are, I think, hidden gems that you can watch on Halloween. I think they're very good Halloween movies. The theme tonight will be kind of vampires, werewolves, and there's some witchcraft in these movies too. Not all of them, but Body Parts, for example. There's a movie called Body Parts with Jeff Fahey. That was a really good movie. It's a hidden gem, I think. It's a very good horror movie. I really like it. I did not put that on. I considered putting it on the list, but it doesn't fall into that werewolf vampire genre at all. So I didn't put it on the list. And Body Parts is just as good as any of these movies, if not better. Body Parts with Jeff Fahey, directed by Eric Red, who also wrote The Hitcher. So that's a very good movie, but it's not on the list tonight. This list is kind of Halloween themed, with the vampires and werewolves and etc. So the first of the 5, and I'm not ranking these, by the way. I'm not going from worst to first. These are just 5 movies that I chose that I think they're all good and all worth watching. So this is not a ranking. But number 5, the 5th movie is Summer of Fear with Linda Blair. Now that's a movie that I almost forgot where I was at. I'm not ranking them, but I want to put them in order because I want to make sure I don't forget any of the ones I'm talking about. And by the way, on my channel here, I kind of ad-lib everything. I just speak from the heart. I don't really rehearse, so I do very little editing in terms of, I do a lot of video editing to prepare the videos, but I do very few takes, and sometimes no takes at all. In fact, I usually do 1 take per video, and I very rarely do any editing, so everything is kind of ad-lib. But the number 5 movie on here, the first movie I'm going to talk about, but it's number 5, is Summer of Fear with Linda Blair. And it's a really, really good movie to me. It's not very well known. There's some witchcraft. I'm not going to give too much away. Usually every video I make on the Late Night Review is a spoiler. Pretty much every video I make is a spoiler, at least 95% of the time, I would say. But tonight, in the spoilers that I do give, they're about movies that are pretty old, so pretty much everyone has seen them normally, so they're not spoilers of new movies. I wouldn't ruin it for people who, movies that just came out. Usually I talk on my program, on my Late Night Review show, I talk about movies that are pretty old, movies that have been out for years and years that most people have seen. So spoilers, yeah, I guess you can say they are spoilers, but not so much, especially for movies that pretty much everyone has seen. But tonight I have 5 hidden gems that not everyone has seen, I don't think. I don't hear them talked about much. And Linda Blair is in this movie called Summer of Fear. I really like it. I saw it when I was a kid. I was staying up late and it came on, Summer of Fear. And it started and it said starring Linda Blair, and I was going through the credits, and I got news for you. It said directed by Wes Craven. So when I saw that it was directed by Wes Craven, this came out in 1978, about 1 year after I was born. I saw it rerun late at night when I was at my parents' house staying up late. Summer of Fear. Oh, Linda Blair's in here. She's from The Exorcist. And then later it said directed by Wes Craven. And it's a good movie. Franz Dresser from the Nanny is in here. I always liked her. And she does a good job in here. I always appreciated her. And she's very entertaining in The Nanny. That was a big sitcom. But she's in here. She plays one of Linda Blair's friends, and she works at a hospital. Another thing I like about this movie too is the house is kind of out in the country. It's got a nice setting. There's a lot of trees. There's horses. There's forests. They own horses. It's a fun movie. It's interesting. Relative of theirs. I won't give too much away, but there's witchcraft involved, and I'll put it this way, someone who moves into their house, Linda Blair's household with her parents, is dabbling in witchcraft, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to give too much away. It's a hidden gem. Has good scenes. There's a lot of actors in here that I had seen in other films. There's an actor in here who played Superman, Clark Kent, in the original Superman, one of my very favorite movies, Original Superman, directed by Richard Donner, starring Christopher Reeve. He played a younger version of Superman on the farm in Smallville. He's in here. And the dynamic between the characters is pretty good. Yes, it does have you look at it and it does have that TV movie type atmosphere, but the rest of the atmosphere is really, really good. I think it's a fun movie to watch on Halloween. There's witchcraft involved. And I'll say this, Linda Blair, she's good in here. And in Exorcist, she was a victim. You know, she said a lot of things. She acted bad and horrible, but it was the demon that took over. It wasn't really her. But in here, she plays a good character. It's fun, and I'll leave it at that. I'll let you watch the rest, and I won't give the ending away. I won't give anything else away. But Summer of Fear is number 5, and I'm not ranking these. This is just, I'm putting them in order so I don't forget any of them. I want to make sure I mention all 5 films. So Summer of Fear is the 5th one. The 4th one coming in at number 4, and I mean, I like all the movies on here. This is a movie that I was a kid. I got a ton of nostalgia for this movie. I might have more nostalgia for this movie, a little bit more than the other films on here. And I'm talking about The Night Stalker, Kolchak, The Night Stalker, starring Darren McGavin. This is 1972, and it's a movie. Yes, there's the series, but there's also movies based on the series, and this is the vampire one. This is the one that came out in 1972. It's in Las Vegas. They're after a serial killer, and the investigator, the reporter, Kolchak, played by Darren McGavin. He's always been one of my favorite actors. He was in Tribes with Jan Michael Vincent. He was in Raw Deal with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think he grew up in Tacoma, if I remember right, but he was born in Washington State like I am. I was born in Washington State. I was born in Renton, Washington. That's right next to Seattle. I don't live there anymore, but that's where I was born. And I think he grew up in Tacoma, if memory serves me right. I hope I get that right. But he's in here. He's investigating about these deaths that have been taking place. These young ladies, showgirls, I believe, they're being killed, and they have marks on the neck. So it's a vampire movie. Perfect for Halloween. Kolchak, The Night Stalker, 1972. Really, really a fun movie. I got a lot of nostalgia for it. There's a scene where the vampire is trying to get blood from the blood bank, and they're trying to stop him. He's throwing all these people all over the hospital walls. He's throwing them left and right. He's super strong. He's a skinny guy, but he's super strong. There's another one where the police are fighting him. He's throwing police all over the place and into the pool at night. This is a movie I got a lot of nostalgia for. I had a ton of fun with it. It used to come on over and over again when I was a kid. Perfect, perfect movie for Halloween. Coming in at number 3, and by the way, I have to keep emphasizing this. This is not a ranking. I'm just keeping them in order so I make sure I don't miss any of the movies. Coming in at number 3 is a movie that was directed by the same guy who wrote The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer. I'm talking about Eric Red. This is one of my favorite werewolf movies of all time, and it's called Bad Moon. Bad Moon was directed by Eric Red. Like I just said, he wrote The Hitcher. And he also directed Body Parts with Jeff Fahey. Bad Moon is about a werewolf. I'm not going to give too much away. It's a hidden gem, for crying out loud. It's one of my very favorite werewolf movies. And if you like werewolf movies and you haven't seen Bad Moon, I think you're in for a treat. It's a very good movie. Very well done by Eric Red. Michael Parr, the guy who played Eddie in Eddie of the Cruisers, that was another good movie. He plays the werewolf in here, and he's struggling with it. He's trying, at the beginning of the movie, he's trying to fight against it. He gets bitten by a werewolf, and he after that, he's kind of suffering with this condition. He doesn't want to turn into the werewolf, and he goes to his sister for help. I believe it was filmed in the Northwest, I think. I'd have to check that again, but he goes to try to live with his sister. He chains himself to a tree at night so he doesn't hurt anyone, and he doesn't want to be a werewolf, at least at the beginning. I'm not going to give everything away. I'm not going to give the ending away. His sister is played by Mariel Hemingway. She was in Superman 4 with Christopher Reeve. She's a good actress, and she does a good job in here. It's a werewolf movie. Bad Moon. If you haven't seen it, it's a very, very good movie. Michael Parr does a really good job, and he's convincing. He played Eddie in Eddie and the Cruisers, like I said, and Eddie and the Cruisers 2, Eddie Lives. Actually, Eddie and the Cruisers Part 2, Eddie Lives, I actually like a lot better than the first one. Both of them I like, but I actually like Part 2 better. Michael Parr, and he was in Village of the Damned with Christopher Reeve, and I like Village of the Damned. I thought it was a good movie, and Christopher Reeve really does a great job in there. But yeah, Michael Parr in Bad Moon, he plays the werewolf. Great movie to watch on Halloween. You got your werewolf theme movie here in Bad Moon. So coming in at number 2, and perhaps the funnest movie on this list, 5 movies, hidden gems, is Waxwork. Coming in at number 2 is Waxwork. This is not a ranking, again, but Waxwork is probably the funnest movie to me on this list, but I like them all, but in terms of just fun, I think this is the funnest. David Warner is in here. I've always liked David Warner. In fact, David Warner was in The Omen with Gregory Peck. He was the reporter that later worked together with Gregory Peck to try to find out the mystery of The Omen and what was going on. That was one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It always will be. David Warner was the photographer. I think his name was Keith Jennings in The Omen, and he was with Gregory Peck, Robert Thorne, and they investigated what was going on, and he was in quite a few movies. In fact, I'll say this, Wes Craven almost chose him to play Freddy Krueger. He considered David Warner for the part of Freddy Krueger. And I've always appreciated David Warner. He was in a great movie called Time After Time. Him and Malcolm McDowell and David Warner played Jack the Ripper in there. And that was really a fun movie. But Waxwork, he's in control of the Wax Museum. He's the owner of the Wax Museum. And this is not a spoiler review. I'm not going to give too much away. It's a hidden gem. I want you to see the movie. But in this movie, you have wax characters of Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman. So you got it all in here. I think there's one of Frankenstein too, if I remember right. But this is a movie I have a lot of nostalgia for. It came out in 1988. It's always been one of my favorites. Kind of fun music. The story is fun. And actors from other movies you've seen are in here, including Gremlins. It's really a good movie. I think everyone in here does a really good job. And David Warner is quite a character in here. He was also in the Titanic. Excellent Halloween movie because you have your werewolf, your vampire theme continued in here. You have a segment with the mummy and these wax characters. I'll give you a little bit. They come to life, these wax characters. I won't give away the ending. I won't say the rest of the plot. And the Marquis de Sade is in here too. He's a wax character who He's a real life character who was a sadomasochist. He tortured and killed people, Marquis de Sade. And as a real historical figure, he's one of the wax figures in here. There's another English actor in here. His name slips my mind at the moment, but he was in The Howling. He played a doctor in The Howling. He also, I think he plays either a doctor or a researcher in this movie as well. Seen this movie a ton of times, but I haven't seen the whole thing from start to finish for about 3 years, maybe 4 years. But I used to watch it a ton when I was a kid. Waxwork is an excellent, excellent Halloween movie. If you have a Halloween party, I think Waxwork and all these movies are good to watch on Halloween. And the final movie on this list is, and this is not a ranking to emphasize again, but number one is my very favorite vampire movie of all time. And it's probably not what you're thinking. It's a movie that's a hidden gem. I think I almost didn't put it on here because it is kind of well known, especially in the horror community, but I just don't see a lot of people talking about it when they do their vampire rankings. I really never see this one that much, at least not in my experience, not too often, but it's 1922's Nosferatu. This is my very favorite vampire movie, along with Fright Night. Fright Night and this one are my two favorite vampire movies of all time, and there's others I can go into and talk about for a long time and mention really great movies. Lost Boys. I actually like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. I thought that was good too, and a few of the others. But this is, yes, it's obviously dated. It's old. It's a silent picture, but it's Count Orlok. This is the kind of the father of all the vampire movies. This is the first vampire movie ever made, I believe, except for one other one. And that other one, it was either a vampire or a Dracula movie that came out a long time ago too, around the same time almost, but it was destroyed in a fire, I believe, and I'd have to do more research on that to find out all the details because I don't know all the details, but this is that one too, and this one is the oldest vampire movie ever. This is 1922. It's a German film, Nosferatu. Max Schreck does a great job as playing the vampire. It's not Dracula, it's Count Orlok. And I love the makeup. I love the bald head, the bushy eye, kind of pointed bushy eyebrows, the pale skin, the pointed ears. I think it's a very, very creepy, ugly, scary vampire. You have just the opposite in Fright Night with Christopher Sarandon, who played the handsome, good-looking vampire. That's just the opposite of this movie, but I love both movies. Fright Night is my favorite vampire movie, along with Nosferatu. This is a classic. If you don't like silent movies, it's not going to be for everybody. I do have nostalgia for this because I remember seeing images of it when I was a kid. Clips of it. I don't think I sat down and watched the whole movie from beginning to end, but I've seen clips of it, watching horror documentaries and everything. I'm not sure if they talked about it. I think they did when they did the Horror Hall of Fame a long time ago, hosted by Robert Englund. I think they did. I'm sure they mentioned this one when they talked about vampires, but I had seen clips of it when I was a kid, and maybe a little bit of the movie when I was a kid. I know I had it rented for me when I was, like I think I was a teenager in it, but it was sometime in the 90s, I think, and it was silent. It could have been after that too. So usually the movies I have nostalgia for are movies that I've seen when I was a kid in the 80s. So I didn't see this in the 80s except for maybe little snippets and clips. And then later, I think it was in the 90s when I saw the whole thing from start to finish. But yeah, it's my favorite vampire movie along with Fright Night. Totally different though than Fright Night. It's silent. I like the storytelling because in a silent movie, they tell you the story, you read it. And I think they do a really good job. I think it's important to find a version with music that you like. When I was a kid, I kind of played my own music to it. I made this tape where I had Halloween music playing to Count Orlok, Michael Myers Halloween music playing to Count Orlok, and that worked for me better than the music they chose. But there's versions of it on YouTube that you can watch for free, I believe. In fact, I saw one not too long ago and it had pretty decent music, so it's available on YouTube. Really good movie to see on Halloween. It's perfect, your perfect vampire movie. Very different from Fright Night, but you know, Count Orlok. It's not Dracula, it's Count Orlok. And it's really a good movie. I highly recommend it. It's a very good vampire movie. I like the art direction. I like the scenery. I like the location. I like how Count Orlok looks. And as an artist, visual is very important to me. When I see a movie and I like how it looks, that'll go a long way in making me like the film. And I like this film a lot, the Nosferatu. So check out this movie. Great movie to watch on Halloween. All these are. So you have Summer of Fear, you have Kojak the Night Stalker, the vampire movie, you have Bad Moon, you have Waxwork, and then you have this one, Nosferatu. All these movies are really good to watch on a Halloween. And I hope most of the audience watching tonight I hope you haven't seen these films, because if you haven't, I mean, if you have, watch them again on Halloween. But if you haven't, I think you're in for a real treat. These are all good movies, and I think all of them are hidden gems. Nosferatu, I don't know how hidden that is, but I don't see it mentioned as much, I think, as it should. But check these out and watch them on Halloween. I highly recommend them. And this has been the Late Night Review. And please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, share this video, and good night, everybody.